Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Get ready for Talking Heads, the show where expert insights meet world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Brought to you by USA Global TV and Radio. Meet our distinguished presenters. From the great state of Texas, longevity expert, award-winning author, publisher, and distinguished Toastmaster, red.olaughlin. From London, England, soul heart awakener, novelist, vocal coach, and artist, Dr. Madeline Chan. Also from England, the Harley Street stress expert, therapist, ambassador for peace, and speaker, Carolyn Heward. And from Australia, ICF PCC credentialed coach, entrepreneur, and leadership coach, Mariska Dupria. Experience their expertise, connect with their wisdom, and transform your perspective. Watch Talking Heads on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. This video and its contents are the property of USA Global TV and Radio. All rights reserved. Terms and conditions apply. Visit usaglobaltv.com for more details.
Howdy, y'all. Red O'Laughlin here. Just another day in paradise here where I'm at in the Houston, Texas area. And the topic today is fitting in between 3 different weeks. Last week I talked about fighting on foods and aging. Today I'm talking about fighting aging, but not from the food perspective. And then next week I'm going to wrap everything up into a longevity secrets kind of part 2. I wrote a book on it. And in the process of preparing for these and a couple other presentations I did recently, there's a lot more out there. And one of the books I'm writing is an update to my longevity secrets book that I published about 5, 6, 7 years ago, a little before COVID. Anyway, that being said, let's go ahead and get right straight in. We got my slides. You know, something I did not load my slides. You know, let me do that while we're doing things. I'll just keep talking. Get that out of there. Delete. Things happen for a reason, I am sure, and that's we're on live TV. So there we go. Add that one in there. Boom. I'm a writer, speaker, publisher, TV host, but most important, the thing that I'm really and truly love to do is to research. I research the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships, treat a cause, fix a problem, treat symptoms, and you'll always be treating symptoms. But the big problem when you treat symptoms is the underlying cause may get worse. You just never know. Okay, it looks like my slides are finally popping up. Let me see if I can get those on the screen. And okay, one more time here. There we go. Fantastic. Technology working the way it's supposed to. Okay, we're talking about fighting aging today. Our show on the USA Global TV and Radio Network called Talking Heads. It's live streamed. It's not a podcast, but it's live streamed to Amazon Fire, Zizzle TV, E360 TV, a couple channels on YouTube, Android, and Apple TV. I have it on my own social media accounts as a simulcast, but it's also on other social media accounts. And there's a few more that have been accessed here in literally the last month or two. As always, my programs are for awareness and education. My website is red.olaughlin.com. That's red like the color, R-E-D, O'Laughlin, O-L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N, Red O'Laughlin, red, RED-O-L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N.com. My books are there. A lot of my information, probably about 1,500 blogs, published about 1,000 of those already, original content articles on LinkedIn, but most of my information you can find there. The USA Global TV is primarily on YouTube. There's a couple different YouTube channels there, but you can find the live shows, you can find the archives, and then I also have a set of archives for the shows that I've done on my website. I'm a researcher, talked about that. My first love in life was chemistry, got a degree in it, and got 4 additional degrees in different other areas in the process of my civilian and military, but none of my professional certifications are listed here for the military. This is all civilian. I did 7 of those. Retired Navy captain, naval aviator, flew for 16 years, 31 years total, been to 62 countries. And talked about cause and effect relationships. Very shortly, in fact, even next week on this show, my wife and I will celebrate 57 years of marriage. We have 2 kids, 3 grandkids, and 1 great-grandson. She's about 1.5 years now. Best-selling author. I have written 6. I have 2 books I'm writing right now, an independent publisher, distinguished Toastmaster, again, educational purposes. I was very fortunate last year on the USA Global TV and Radio Network to be a TV host, holding down the number 2 and number 6 slots for my show on the Wise Ones. So very, very thankful for that. Two of my books apply to what we're talking about today, fighting aging. One's called The Joy of Ageless Health, and I talk about the primary causes that happens at chronic low-level cellular inflammation in the body. And you're talking about stress and toxins and radiation and inflammation, and infection, diet, and stuff. And I go into a lot of details, but I also talk about outside of that, let's get down to what's really happening molecularly in the body that we have some control about. So in Longevity Secrets for Healthy Aging, I picked 2 a while back. One of them is human growth hormone, and the other one is the telomere length. I'll talk about one of those today. But there's actually another 10 or 12, depending on how you want to look at things. And we'll cover some of those today, and hopefully all of them next week. Aging. That's something we do every single day. Every minute of the day, we're aging. That's one of those things that happens. And we're aging by thousands of chemical reactions. It never lets up. It's just never ending. And okay. But 24/7, you're sleeping, you're still aging. And so we have these things that are happening, and some aspects of our body that can accumulate. Let's say you have bone loss. Well, it's atom by atom is being lost, and they can't accumulate. So by the time you get a few decades into the system, you end up with osteopenia, then maybe osteoporosis, then brittle bone. So they can accumulate. But we have these problems. There are constant changes there, depending on what you're eating, what you're doing, how you're affecting stress, your exercise levels, your quality of your sleep. A lot of things affect what's going on. So you're having constant change. And then the body's evolving over time too. What used to be really and truly very efficient, very effective at what we're doing back in our teens and our 20s, by the time you get to your 60s and 70s, they're barely holding their own. And as with almost everything that we deal with, a lot of us are just unaware, uneducated about those things that happen to us inside our bodies. But it's not one thing that's creating the problem. It's a combination of things, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And the more and more I go through this, I'm just literally amazed. I was thinking last night I should put together a large spreadsheet where I talk about, okay, here's a particular cause, here's a lifestyle cause, lifestyle choice, because the more and more I look at this thing, it's not something outside our control. A lot of these things are really and truly easily able to be controlled, but we don't know about it. But it's something that we can, in fact, take charge over and make a change. History matters because our history is a combination of all our habits that we've adapted. If your habits of eating good are there or eating bad, they're going to add up over time. Now, you may say, is it never too old to start? I'm going to say maybe, maybe not. It depends. If you're 86 years of age and you're got some major health issues, maybe it is too late. But if you're 46 years of age and just starting to notice your hair turning a different color, can't remember some stuff, you're not as agile as you used to be, you can't pick up as much weight as you used to do, maybe you're just starting to notice some of those telltale signs of aging, maybe it is a good time to make some changes in your life. But the big thing is if you do nothing, it's not going to lead to any improvement. Now you might ask yourself, well, this person was on TV the other day. They're 104 years of age. They're pretty spry. They know what was going on. Mentally, they were sharp. Well, there are exceptions to everything out there. Maybe they were doing more right things than wrong things. We don't know. But, sometimes they smoked for the last 75 years. They have a glass of bourbon every day. I don't know what's magic in their bodies. But basically speaking, if we do nothing, we're not going to get any positive response out of it. It's the old Alice in Wonderland conundrum. The Alice gets there to a fork in the road and asks the Cheshire Cat, which road shall I take, the left or the right? And Cat says, "Oh, what's your destination?" She doesn't know. She says, "Well, if you don't know where your destination is, any road will get you there." So that's kind of the way we're looking at our own health. We don't know what road to go down, so whatever road we're on is going to get us there. But there is not going to be the place we want to be. It's just going to be older. And what we hope to be able to do with this presentation and others is to begin some level of incremental changes in the right direction. So what are some of the generic causes of aging? Stem cells, they're just not being created as much as they used to be. Autophagy, that's a cleaning of the body. It doesn't function as well as you get older. mTOR, another pathway for aging. Inflammation, oxidation, we've talked about that quite a bit. Infection, immune function, again, younger, you usually recover from something pretty quickly. As you get older, it takes a month, 2 months to get over something. So why? Well, nutrition, our total calories, our exercise, the quality of our sleep, our level of stress, and our ability to manage it. Our cognition and what we do to keep it peaked up there. pH, whether our body is acidic or alkaline. Toxins that we have in our foods and personal care products primarily. But you also have pollution and other things out there that become a problem. I'm becoming more and more convinced that if we take good care of our mitochondria, we'll have a very happy retirement and later life than our peers. Diet, the quality of fats, the medications we're on, human growth hormone, our gut health, the genes we have, senescence, that's the process of which cells are supposed to die, but they don't. Proteostasis, that's a process, and we'll be talking a lot about that here very, very within a slide or two. Our telomere length, our ability to absorb things. Lots of things cause us to age. So if you're looking at what is there a simple thing I can do, well, maybe one of the best ones is start focusing on your mitochondria. Look at the quality of your sleep. Look at your ability to handle your stress. There are things you can do that are easy and doesn't cost you anything but your time. Last week I talked about food and aging. Diet influences so many things because we get a lot of toxins in there. We get a lot of bad choices from the foods, bad unhealthy fats. But it's only one part of our lifestyle. But it's a very important one, something we generally do almost every single day. Unless you're fasting, diet becomes a very important part of our lifestyle choices. Aging begins within the cells, right there at the very cellular level. So if I have chronic low-level cellular inflammation and it continues and it causes the DNA in our cells to mutate, that's the beginning of disease. If I can keep a good anti-inflammatory, antioxidant dietary regimen going, I can keep that level down. There's a test I've mentioned several times, C-reactive protein. It's a blood test, generally $40 or less. You can go down to a local lab and have it done. Price it around, just don't walk in and ask, but you can get some pretty decent deals. But that gives you an overall indication of the body's inflammatory level. It's worth getting. I get it every year for my annual physical, but it tells you, do you have a lot of inflammation? It won't tell you where, but if you have something, let's start finding out where it's at. If you keep it down almost to zero, well, then you can generally assume you're pretty healthy. But our lifestyle choices affect the cell's health, which in turn affects our longevity. We don't want to get to be 75, 85, 95 years of age, and then all of a sudden somebody's changing our diaper for the last 5 years of our life. That's not a good quality of life to end our life. But we have stress we can control, toxins we have a big control over, exercise more than you think, the quality of sleep, diet, relationships. All of these things are lifestyle choices, and we do have control over them. These are things we make decisions about every single day. So we're talking about not only physical health, our mental health, our emotional health. They all contribute to longevity. You don't want to be in a perfect physical specimen and have dementia, and you can't have any reasonable conversation with anyone because you can't remember anything, or your emotional status is such that you're constantly in an uproar over something that you shouldn't be. Your anxiety, depression, all sorts of things. So it's a combination of factors. We're looking for the physical, but a lot of the things that fix the physical also fix the mental and emotional health too. So the short answer, if I were to say something, it's going to be balanced nutrition. It's going to be caloric restriction. So I'm not going to be deficient in any nutrient, but I'm going to have about 30% less calories per day than the experts say that my body needs. I'm going to have some level of exercise, but it's going to be functional fitness. I'm going to be able to manage my stress on an effective level. The quality of my sleep is going to be great. My exposure to sunshine is going to be very specific and monitored. Fasting is going to definitely be part of my process. At least for me, I do a 72-hour fast every month, but I may want to bump that up to 100 or 200 hours depending on how the fast is going, how I feel. But I want to have a very positive mental outlook, and I want to be able to know what my bad habits are and be able to make some changes, even incrementally at first. And then again, everything's going to be an individual approach because we all have different genes and different lifestyle choices. Let's get into the weeds. How do we fight aging? Well, let's start with one that's pretty, that occurs every single day, telomere length. At the end of your DNA, you have this spiraling thing going down. There's a little caplet at the end. It's called a telomere. The cell breaks in two, becomes two separate cells. That telomere is there to keep the DNA from unraveling. Well, as you replicate, the cell divides. That little caplet at the bottom loses a little bit of length. Not much, but it depends on a number of factors, lifestyle choices. If you're stressed out, if your quality sleep is poor, if you're overweight, if you have some issues, how highly inflammatory, lots of issues cause that telomere length to actually be more. Let's assume for a moment that I have a roll of pennies. There's 50 pennies in the roll. A good deal would be the telomere splits, I lose 1 penny. Well, but if I'm obese and I'm stressed out, I'm depressed, I have other issues, maybe I lose 2 pennies or 3 pennies. Well, is that a big deal? The telomere length, the longer it is, generally the healthier and the longer you're going to live. So if you use up all of your telomere length, by the time that gets up to the very end, and it says, I don't have any more to give, that cell dies. So that's an early cell death. Cells are programmed to die. And we're going to talk about senescence in the program, but the telomere length is a major factor in aging. Exercise, moderate endurance, aerobic, all of those will contribute to keeping a longer telomere length. Fasting, diet, balanced nutrition, the basic anti-inflammatory program overall. So as I mentioned, sleep, obesity, stress, toxins, they all affect that telomere length. So we do have a lot of control over it. Now, can you grow a longer one? Well, scientists have been trying to do that for a while, but you can certainly slow down the loss of telomere length over time. Human growth hormone. When you're born, you have a whole pot full of it. You develop from a baby to a toddler, to a preteen, to a teenager, to your early 20s, and you're just using the stuff hand over fist. Your body's growing, your bones are growing, your bones, everything is growing. Your brain maxes out at about 24, 25 years of age, and it's there. But the body keeps growing, and over time, the body produces less and less human growth hormone. So by the time you hit 55, 65, 75 years of age, your human growth hormone production is about 10% of what it used to be as a teenager. But fasting and high intensity interval training are two things that ramp up human growth hormone almost literally overnight. So there are ways for us to increase our human growth hormone. That HGH used to be the gorilla in the room in our bodies controlling everything that was happening. And all of a sudden it's shrunk into an old chimpanzee who has no effect on anything else going on. It's replenished during our sleep. And so we need to make sure we have good quality sleep. But when I start adding couple extra inches to my belly fat, I have other problems in my body with inflammation and stuff. They become major factors with regard to my human growth hormone production. But if you're interval fasting, you have caloric restriction, you can generally increase that up. Heat shock proteins, I talked about that last week. You get in a sauna for 30 minutes. These heat shock proteins actually cause our human growth and other factors of aging. They're very, very, very protective, something that's of major concern. Protein homeostasis, proteostasis, we talked about that literally about 3 or 4 slides back. Normal decline with age, just like most everything else in our bodies. These control the synthesis of our proteins, the proper folding of it, the movement of the proteins from point A to point B, and the overall programmed death and degradation of the proteins. The heat shock proteins helps. They really help a lot in this particular pathway for aging. Exercise helps a lot, caloric restriction. Acidosis, it can be a factor because now acidosis is one that can contribute to having heat shock proteins. But there's more than that, because when you start looking at inflammation, oxidation, acidosis, there's a lot of different things. I put in there the ubiquitin proteasome system, UPS. There's a lot of different parts in there that can, in fact, contribute or not. It's like, well, if I'm missing a little bit of vitamin B12 for a long enough period of time, it mimics Alzheimer's. Well, that's easy to fix. Well, some of these things are literally that easy to fix, but some of them, the fix requires a little bit more. So from an awareness perspective, the heat shock protein is one that I think is of worth consideration. Cellular communications, a major factor, because our bodies talk to each other. Our brain talks to our heart all the time. Our gut is considered our second brain. They're always talking to each other. And so when you start having, our cellular connections in our brain, when they're not working, we can't think well, we get depressed, we get anxiety, we get a lot of things, can't remember things. And the same thing works in our bodies. The cellular communication that goes out to your gallbladder, to your liver, to your kidneys, to your lungs, they all get disruptions in there, and the body doesn't work like it's supposed to. But we have this thing called nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, NAD+. And you'll see this NAD+ fixes a lot of problems with different pathways for aging. So if I look at how can I get more of this NAD+, there are lots of ways. Diet, getting more sun, heat, quality sleep, intermittent fasting, cutting back on our calories. And there's several precursors. In other words, yeah, I can get the NAD+ from maybe what I'm eating, but if I'm eating turkey and I get tryptophan from the turkey, the tryptophan will cause a precursor of NAD+ to be formed. And the same thing, they have NR, NA, NMN, NAM. All of these are nicotinic acid combinations that are precursors to NAD+. And so they become important supplements that you might want to look at if you're looking at, well, let me go ahead and try this to fight off that. DNA damage, that's one of the things we think about a lot. We hear about, well, free radicals, I got inflammatory, I got this and that and everything else, infections. Well, your DNA is what are the genes that tell your body what to do. Well, sometimes I have DNA damage that actually causes a mutation on the gene, our DNA, but sometimes I don't. And when I don't, it's called genomic instability. The cellular communication is there, but the gene is being expressed properly. Everything is working the way it's supposed to, but I'm not getting the same result. And it's due to aging. I get a functional decline. The things that I want to have happen are not happening because the body is just getting older. Now, there's some DNA repair mechanisms, particularly with your immune system. We'll talk about that at the end. So there are some things that I can do to fix that DNA damage, but sometimes that free radical damage I can fix with antioxidants, anti-inflammatories. But sometimes the ability to communicate from the DNA to the molecule in your liver, for instance, is going to be misinterpreted, and that's a different animal. So when I look at my DNA damage, there's a lot of different cellular pathways out there that this thing can go on. One is mTOR, it's a mammalian target of rapamycin, AMPK. A lot of these things are typical pathways that are proteins and things take, but they are also the pathways for aging. So if I can control what I don't want going down that pathway, such as with caloric restriction, if I cut back the calories on animals, lab animals, I can see about a 30%, 20% increase in their lifespan. I can see them being healthier than their peers at the same age. So when those other animals are dying, these animals are going strong. Now, the biggest problem is that we haven't been able to test it long-term on humans because we just haven't been testing them that long. But there's a thing called targeted antioxidants. It's something that they're doing nowadays. Is can I target right down to the mitochondrial level in the body and prevent damage, promote better energy production? NAD plus is one of them. One of my favorite functions in the body is autophagy. I'm a big fanatic on fasting. Autophagy is that process the body uses to clean and recycle the cells. If you never take time to have the cells cleaned out, they're operating in an environment of immense stress, cellular stress, and lots of things can happen. DNA methylation inhibitors. There are things out there, senolytics. These are supplements that can be taken in order to help these pathways be more effective, more efficient. Exercise, fighting stress properly. Epigenetic alterations. This is the one I was referring to earlier. I have a DNA that's operating correctly, but it acts like it's mutated. Well, it's acting that way because it's being interpreted that way. Generally speaking, my epigenetic things that I do, in other words, I have genes in my body. I get them from my parents. Well, I have lifestyle choices, my sleep, my exercise, my diet, my stress management. Each one of those things can turn on a gene or turn off a gene. And I got hundreds of genes. And if I'm getting good quality sleep, I probably have all the good genes turned on. If I'm getting a decent amount of exercise, same thing. But if I'm not, then I'm having problems. I'm turning the wrong genes on at the wrong time. So in this particular case, there's a thing called epigenetic alterations. And as effect, they increase senescence. In other words, the cell is not living as long as it's supposed to. It goes into a die mode, but it doesn't die. And there's differences in interpretation at the cellular level than what the instruction was sent out from the DNA to begin with. So there's no DNA damage or mutation, but the cell at the end of the train thinks it did have some kind of it and is getting new instructions. What causes it? Diet, obesity, physical activity, toxins, again, lifestyle choices, smoking, alcohol. Something that popped up to me in my research was night shift. You're sitting on night shift for a long period of time. You're out of the basic realm of circadian rhythms. It can be a factor. It can be a major factor. Pollution. We talked about toxins and everything else. Things that can target these, but in other words, we're talking about, I want to target a specific enzyme in the body. And so the scientists are saying, well, let's see if I can target a specific epigenetic enzyme. And three of the ones they're looking at is DNA methylation, histone modifications, and chromatin remodeling. Those are all the ones that the researchers are saying. If I can target that one and get it to act normal again, or stop it from degrading, or enhance its recovery, then we can start seeing changes for the good. One of the things that they're noticing is that when I start having some of these epigenetic alterations, just like the genes pass down information from my mother and father down to me, some of these epigenetic alterations, in other words, a bad side effect of a pathway for aging, gets passed down from other generations. So it's transgenerational. And our lifestyle changes in this particular case is turning that gene on at the right time or off at the right time. The impact is there a little more slowly than some other changes you can make. But again, if we're looking at lifestyle, it's one of many things that we can change. And we all operate a little bit differently. So your choices, your actions can make a difference. In some cases, you can almost see a change overnight. Don't plan on it. But again, these things sometimes take time to act. I've told the story about my wife and just changing into the Walls protocol, and months of chemo fatigue was wiped out literally in 48 hours by her going to food choices that included 32 different nutrients the body needs on a daily basis. It wiped out months and months, almost a year's worth of chemo, all the fog and other issues was there. She went through weeks of radiation therapy. And again, it wiped out all of that. So yes, you can see some major changes literally overnight. Maybe not be 24 hours, but bear with me. Now, sometimes we have everything's operating. It gets out there. Our gut processes the food. The nutrients are in the bloodstream. It gets out there by the same pathways that I mentioned, mTOR and AMPK, et cetera. Everything gets out there, but the cells are not picking it up the same way they used to. We hear about insulin resistance. We had a certain level of insulin that was required to get in there. Now, all of a sudden, you have insulin resistance. It takes more insulin to get that glucose in. Well, the same thing happens in the rest of our body. The cellular response that we would expect to grow, to create energy, to fight infection, to do other things, the normal cellular response, they're not getting it because the nutrient availability is there, but it's not being absorbed properly. There's a metabolic imbalance. So caloric restriction and intermittent fasting can activate these pathways, the MPK, and it can also inhibit the mTOR and the sirtuin, so the another pathway. So I have exercise, stress management. Those are things that inhibit or activate depending on which lifestyle choice I'm taking. But I also have my gut biome. Those are the choices of my diet. What did I choose to put into my body? And if I'm operating correctly, the senolytics, the old age processing of our body, is something that can be adjusted, slowed down a little bit. Fasting is I think probably one of the healthiest things that you can possibly do. I'm getting here toward the end. Another function of getting older, and I'm not including all of them this week. I'm going to include as many as I can next week. But stem cell exhaustion. In other words, we make stem cells. They're there. And if our liver needs a couple extra new cells because some of them died, we didn't believe that the heart made stem cells so they could be replaced. But we're finding out now dark chocolate is one of the ones that will actually make a heart stem cell. But the stem cells they're generic. They go where they're needed. They go to the brain, the lungs, the kidneys, tissues in the body. They go to wherever the body needs new cells. It goes there, finds out what cells need, and boom, it changes itself into a kidney cell, a lung cell, whatever. But the stem cells, as we get older, we're not making as many. We're not maintaining an adequate supply. All of a sudden, our body has a demand for more stem cells than what we can produce, and now we have an aging situation. We have lifestyle choices that can help there. Caloric restriction, intermittent fasting, longer term fasting. When I use the term fasting, I'm talking at least 72 hours. The NAD plus, again, anti-inflammatories, antioxidants. These are all the mostly foods, but there's some other nutrients that are there. But our gut health, particularly when we're looking at stem cells, is so much greater impact on our body. Now, a term that I came up with recently, I started doing some research on, is called the stem cell niche. And there's actually an environment that the stem cell lives in. And so if we can help that environment by targeting it with a healthier approach, then the stem cells live longer, create more, do their job better. So there's another area there. Somebody wants to know more about it. Go ahead and Google target or stem cell niche. And there's more than a little bit of information I'm finding out. So I'll talk more about it next week. Macroautophagy disablement. Okay, autophagy there's several different kinds, but macroautophagy is one. And this is a case where the autophagy goes in, cleans the cells out, recycles. Well, macroautophagy has a specific function within the general umbrella of autophagy. And in this particular case, our body can't handle recycling, as we just can't keep up with the amount of recycling that's needed. So if we're having our cells unable to be cleaned and recycled, then we're starting to see aging. Can we fix this a little bit? Yeah, the same kinds of things we've been talking about in all the other slides. The anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, the quality of sleep, our stress management, our exercise. There's a few other things, quercetin, curcumin, resveratrol. Now, on any of those, resveratrol, curcumin, because they're not very bioavailable in the body, we really need to take them as a supplement with what's called piperine, black pepper extract, that will take something like curcumin and make it 2,000% more bioavailable in the body. So if you're taking a supplement, read the label and see if it has piperine. If it doesn't, put it back, buy another one. And keeping your hormones balanced is another one. You start getting out of balance with deficiencies in nutrients, hormones get out of balance, a lot of things happen. Our gut, one of the last things I want to talk about today. Gut dysbiosis. We're disrupting the normal functions that we have in the body, SIFO and SIBO. And as a result, they're probably not too bad. We can live through it as a younger adult. And yeah, we may suffer constipation, diarrhea, a lot of bloating, a lot of gas, a lot of other things. But when you start getting into the older ages, now we start having more than a few problems, because hospital-induced infections and sepsis and other things, destruction of our gut lining, a lot of diarrhea, a lot of things are happening because the gut is not stabilized and maintained. And so if I'm not eating the right foods, I'm not taking the right stress protections, not getting a certain level of sleep, exercise, everything has to be balanced out. So I can't just overdo only exercise and never worry about stress, or watch my diet and never exercise. There are things that have to be done in some level of proportion. But the gut has a significant influence on the immune system. About 80% of your gut is your immune system. And as such, everything is coming out of your gut, it's going through your immune system and going into your bloodstream, going into the rest of your body. And your immune system has main responsibility for DNA repair. So if I'm looking at keeping a good, healthy gut, I take a couple antibiotics. I may destroy my gut not only for days, but for weeks, and depending on how long I'm on the antibiotic routine, it could be months before I get stabilized again. So it's super critical that if I ever go on an antibiotic regimen, I want to be talking to my doctor or my pharmacist about when do I go on my probiotic, when do I start taking prebiotic, to get everything balanced back in, because the gut is super critical. Okay, as we're getting here to wrapping things up, lifestyle choices impact nearly every hallmark of aging, and there's 4 or 5 major hallmarks of aging. So what I want to talk about next week, I want to kind of go through the same ones we talked about here, give a little bit more detail as to how they interact with each other, what are they, what causes, what options we have, but more importantly, what health issues happen if I don't do it. We talk about aging. Well, yeah, I get older. Is that a big deal? Well, if I'm aging healthy, that's fine. But again, I mentioned, do you want somebody changing your diaper for 5 years? I don't think so. So we want to be independent. We want to be functional. We want to be able to think properly. We want to be able to do things maybe not as fast, but as carefully as we can, and live a nice, healthy life. And so that's what I want to talk about next week when we're talking about things. So this will be one of the 2 books I'm working on this year. The other one is a book on the Camino de Santiago. It's more of a picture book talking about the road less traveled. I'm really concerned about the Roman roads that we actually walked on 500 miles across Spain, my wife and I, almost 10 years ago. And so that's one book. The other book is an update to my Longevity Secrets book. So with that being said, I'm getting ready to conclude today's talk. And next week, we'll talk about Longevity Secrets Updated. And we'll go into the ones I talked about here and a couple, 3 more that I didn't talk about today. So you all have fun, enjoy, and take care. And I'll catch you next week. Bye now.
Meet Red O'Laughlin, TV show host, presenter, and author.
Howdy y'all, Red O'Laughlin here. I'm a TV host on the USA Global TV and Radio Network.
Red has 3 weekly shows every Thursday.
I've been a TV host now with USA Global probably maybe just a little over 3 years. Probably, I know for sure, 250, 300 shows.
Join Red on the Corner Bookstore.
The corner bookstore is one where we talk to authors, publicists, publishers, editors, cover designers, anybody associated with the writing and authoring book production business. You have somebody in that area, I can help you with regard to getting your book done, getting it published, working with you on a cover. A lot of things I can help people with, and I have probably maybe published over 40 books for people so far.
Join Red on the Wise Ones.
On the Wise Ones, I'm looking for entrepreneurs, business owners, people who have wisdom, lessons learned over time that they can share with others. So please go to usaglobaltv.com, sign up and join me there.
Book your session on usaglobaltv.com. Join Red on Talking Heads.
On Talking Heads, I take my experience. I fell in love with chemistry many years ago, got a degree in it, got an invitation to Vietnam, never practiced chemistry per se, but I did get a chance when my wife was going through chemo to get back into the chemical end of things. I started looking for cause and effect relationships. I had been working at a company doing cause and effect analysis on failures in the field on various products that we made. So I said, why not look at the cellular structure in the body? The chemicals are chemicals, they do certain things. So I take my knowledge of chemistry and research, I write about it, I speak about it. I have over 1,000 original content articles on LinkedIn, most of them dealing with some aspect of health or wellness. I speak on that topic quite often, and the Talking Head Show is one that I concentrate my knowledge of health and wellness on in order to help people.
Red is a distinguished Toastmaster.
As a distinguished Toastmaster, I help people get their speeches developed. The presentation is something that I critique all the time with Toastmasters. It's one of those skills that I have. I can easily help you on that one. So from a position of writing, publishing, book coach, speaking, and being a keynote speaker at an event or virtually, depending on how things work out. But those are the things that I can help people with, and I have 3 shows every week here on the USA Global TV and Network, and please join me when you can. Appreciate it. Bye now.
Here are some of the books that Red has written and published. Contact Red at red.olaughlin.com.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USAGlobalTV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.